Welcome back to Ben's Basics. Chili con carne, or chili with meat, is a favorite dish of mine any time of the year. Good chili requires good chili powder, and this is how I make mine. For your chili powder, you're going to need some dried chilies. I have some Chiles Negros, some Guajilitos, some dried Chipotles, and some Cascabels. I also have some smoked Spanish paprika, some fennel seeds, and cumin seeds, and a little bit of Mexican oregano. With some kitchen shears, cut the tops of the chilies off and go ahead and empty it of seeds and start cutting them into 1-inch strips. You want nice thin strips and little chunks and pieces. If your chilies are dry enough, they'll just fall apart. Go ahead and put them in a dry, hot pan with about a tablespoon of your cumin seeds, tablespoon of your fennel seeds, and lightly roast until you start getting a little whiff of smoke. Quickly take it off the heat and grind into a nice fine powder. It may take multiple batches to get all the chilies ground into this nice fine powder. It should smell smoky, spicy, and delicious. Honestly, the hardest part of the process is getting it into a glass jar. I'm using an old peppercorn container to hold it. These small glass jars are fantastic for holding homemade spices. Always reuse your glass jars. For the chili, you will need 2 pounds of ground beef, 1 whole onion, diced, 1 jalapeno, 1 habanero, some more of that Mexican oregano. Let's see here. Of course, Chipotles and adobo sauce. I love this stuff, in chili at least. Some minced garlic, some of our chili powder, some diced roasted tomatoes. These have green peppers in them already. I have 2 cans here. 1 tablespoon of beef tallow, 1 can of Texas beer, preferably a lager, and some non-salted tortilla chips. You need about 15. Let's start by doing a rough dice on your onions. Doesn't need to be precise, doesn't need to be exactly the same size. Chili is a dish that's cooked for at least a couple of hours, so stuff is going to break down a little bit. You really don't have to worry about evenness with this. See, you notice my black nitrile gloves. Trust me, these are going to be very important, because when you top chilies and habaneros and jalapenos, you don't want to forget washing your hands, and these things make it so much easier. There we go. 1 whole onion. Now we're going to top the jalapeno. What I like to do is just split it in half, then cut it into strips. I'm not going to even de-seed it because I want the heat in my chili. There we go, just like that. Cut it in the quarters, then cut it into strips. Then we're going to do a nice rough dice on this as well. Chili is a dish that's stewed for a long time, so you don't have to worry about even dices and chops. It's going to eventually break down and become nice and rich and thick. Here we go. And here's the habanero. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut it in half, cut into strips, and then do a nice rough dice. Yes, and we're using the seeds as well. There's going to be 2 pounds of meat in here, so 1 small habanero is not going to blow your mind here. And the best part about wearing these black gloves is once I'm done chopping, I just throw the cutting board and the knife in the dishwasher and just slip the gloves right off. Trust me. If you ever chopped chilies before and you forgot to wash your hands and went to the restroom, you are going to buy some black nitrile gloves as well. Heat a tablespoon of your beef tallow in a nice heavy pan, pot, or cast iron Dutch oven, and start adding in your ground beef in small, I'd say golf ball sized chunks, to brown, and you might need to brown it in batches. You don't want to overcrowd the pan because then you won't be browning your beef, you'll just be steaming it. Once you finish browning the last bits of your beef, go ahead and transfer it over to a container. I'm using a metal bowl. What I like to do is sort of tip the Dutch oven at an angle so that way I can sort of scrape the meat up and leave a substantial amount of fat in the Dutch oven without having to use a strainer or anything weird like that. Yep, it's going to take a little bit of practice and some time. I'll tell you, it's a really good arm exercise for the arm holding the Dutch oven. Now, in the already hot fat, go ahead and add in your onion, the whole onion right there. And you stir it and keep it going until the onion is nice and translucent and softened. Once softened, go ahead and add in your chili peppers. There we go, your habanero and your jalapeno. And minced garlic. Stir that in a little bit, let that soften just a tiny bit. You don't want that to cook down too much. Now we're going to add in the chipotle peppers in adobo sauce, the whole can. I'm going to stir that in. I'm going to use the wooden spoon to try to break those chipotles down into smaller pieces. Don't need to really do this because, like I said, this is going to be stewing for quite a few hours, so it's going to start breaking down naturally on its own. Just make sure it's stirred in, make sure that you don't have that adobo sauce starting to burn. You want to see some moisture starting to cook out, but you don't want to hear too much of a sizzle. You want it to be just nice and steady. Once the adobo sauce is warmed up, go ahead and add in one whole can of your Texas lager. There we go. Warm beer is better than cold beer for this because then you have to wait for everything to get back at the temperature again. Go ahead and stir that in, and you let that beer reduce by half before you go on to the next step. All right, after the beer's been reduced, go ahead and add back in all your ground beef. Might have a little bit of fat in the bottom. Go ahead and leave that out. There should be enough fat and oils in the chili. You don't need more. Stir that in a little bit, let everything incorporate, and here is when we're going to add our first batch of chili powder. I'm going to use about half of the vial. Don't want to over season it, but you don't want to under season it either. Now the diced tomatoes. You add as many cans as you think you need depending on the consistency you want. If you want a more stew-like chili, add 2 cans. Again, I love these because they have the green peppers in them already. Now I'm crushing and adding in about 12 to 15 tortilla chips. Go ahead and stir that in. Make sure that they're the unsalted chips because the salted chips will be way too salty for this, and you still need to adjust for seasoning later. Stir that in. You're going to see some chunks. Trust me, they're going to cook down. Alright, now after that's cooked down just a little bit, let's go ahead and add a little bit of Mexican oregano. We're going to taste. We're going to taste and adjust seasoning now before we put it in the oven. Alright, tastes good. Needs a little bit of salt. And a little bit more salt. A little bit more than that, yeah. Go ahead and empty the vial. Just all the chili powder. That's where you get the chili flavor from. Give it another taste. It's going to become more complex as it cooks down, but because we're going to cook it in a Dutch oven, it's not going to reduce that much more. There we go. Yeah, that tastes like chili to me. Alright, go ahead and put it in a preheated 250-degree oven. I'd say at least 2 hours, up to 3 hours. Go ahead and prop it, the lid on just slightly off center. Take it in the oven. And here we have it. Chili Con Carne, or as we call it in Texas, a big bowl of red. You can eat by yourself, put some onions and sour cream on it, but personally, I love it for hot dogs. Just go ahead and spread it on there. Nice, simple hot dog and chili. Don't need much else. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned.